your chance. See the mystery and romance.
Look at this stuff, isn't it neat? Wouldn't you think my collection's complete?
That's what I do. It's what I live for. Tale as old as time, true as it can be.
I am on my way. I can go the distance.
I've been dreaming of a true love's kiss, and a prince I'm hoping comes with this.
Gotta keep one jump ahead of the breadline, one swing ahead of the sword. I steal only what I can afford. That's everything.
A whole new world.
Don't you dare close your eyes.
100,000
Hold your breath, it
to
gets better.
Ariel, listen to me. The human world, it's a mess. Life under the sea is better than anything they got up there.
Here goes. Better throw my hand in. Wish me happy landing. All I gotta do is jump.
WDW Radio, your information station.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the WDW Radio Show, your Walt Disney World information station. I am your host, Lou Mongello, and this is show number 196 for the week of November 14th, 2010. This week, I'm honored to welcome in a very special guest. In addition to being a Disney legend, he is the recipient of multiple Academy Awards, Golden Globes, and Grammys for his work on Disney animated classics such as The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Pocahontas, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Enchanted, and of course, Beauty and the Beast. Legendary composer Alan Menken joins me to talk about his early career and helping to usher in the renaissance of Disney animation, as well as his work on Disney's 50th full-length animated feature, Tangled. It's a fascinating look into the life and music of a man who continues to make magic for generations of Disney fans. I'll announce the details for next month's special Meet of the Month in Walt Disney World. I'll have some other upcoming Disney Meet information, a few other announcements, and of course your voicemails. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of the WDW Radio Show. For a generation of children who grew up in the 90s, and even many adults, their personal soundtrack was comprised of music from Disney films and songs composed by Alan Menken. During the renaissance of Disney animation from 1989 to 1999, his work defined and was a major reason for the success of films such as The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Pocahontas, Hunchback of Notre Dame, and of course, Beauty and the Beast. His work led, for the first time, to the transition of some of these and other films from the screen to the theatrical stage. And his work did not go unrecognized, not only by the millions of Disney fans who continue to span new generations, but his peers who have honored him with 8 Academy Awards, making him only second to Alfred Newman and Walt Disney for the most Oscars won by an individual, as well as many more Oscar nominations, plus 7 Golden Globes and 10 Grammys, just to break up the mantle a little bit. He was recently awarded his own star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame and was appropriately named a Disney legend in 2001. And now he is back with his 10th Disney musical, Tangled, based on the fairy tale Rapunzel, which also marks a milestone for the Disney company, as it's the studio's 50th animated feature. So it truly is with deepest pride and greatest pleasure that I welcome Alan Menken to the WDW Radio Show. Mr. Menken, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me. And as an adult who remains a kid at heart, I was one of those people that I referred to in the introduction who found your music so inspirational and evocative and important, and it remains so to me to this day. So I have to tell you from the outset what getting the opportunity to speak with you today means to me on a personal level.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
If we can, let's just talk a little bit about your early background, because I think your journey is a fascinating one. And growing up in New York, your musical tastes weren't necessarily the norm for young kids. Tell us a little bit about your early childhood and some of your early musical interests.
Okay. I mean, I don't know if it's totally not the norm, but as I was growing up, I did love classical music. I studied piano, I studied violin, played in school orchestras, went to music camps, and I would listen to love listening to Beethoven symphonies and Brahms symphonies and Tchaikovsky and inventing scenarios, dramatic scenarios that would accompany those works. And I was never great at practicing. Kind of an ADD kid, and so I would hear the beginning of a piece, and then I would make up my own Beethoven sonata or Czerny exercise or whatever it is. So my parents would think I was practicing, but in fact I was just writing music for an hour. And then with the Beatles and 60s. I like everyone else, I took up the guitar and began writing songs and that was a turning point for me, I guess.
Well, your journey was a little bit more circuitous because you start playing and then you start writing and composing. You were moved off your path a little bit. You started studying pre-med. What happened to go from med school to writing songs? Right.
Well, I was I never really wanted to be a doctor, and actually, the truth is, all of the men in my family have been dentists. My father just retired. He's nearly 90 years old. He just retired from dentistry. My father's brother was a dentist. Now he's an orthodontist. My father's father was a dentist. My father's sister's husband is a dentist. My mother's sister's husband was a dentist. So this is a family that is lousy with dentists, and I thought, well, I guess I'm supposed to be a dentist. So I went to school as a pre-med, but that didn't last very long. That was, music is really what I think I was always meant to do. It's always what I wanted to do. It's where my heart was and my head was.
Well, millions of people are grateful that you didn't follow the path that you were instructed to do, and you found the one that you were supposed to do.
Yeah, thank you. And I think they're better off for me not actually, drilling their teeth.
Exactly. Your off-Broadway shows, we'll jump ahead a little bit. You were writing music for years, but your off-Broadway shows, especially The Little Shop of Horror, really was your first major hit, going from the stage to the screen. But your starting to work with Disney really was kind of a product of the Eisner, Wells, and Katzenberg team coming together and coming in, really wanting to reinvigorate the animated films at the studios. Can you tell us how you began to work with the Disney company?
Well, following Little Shop of Horrors, Howard Ashman, when we did Little Shop of Horrors, David Geffen was one of our producers. And David, I think, mentioned Howard to Jeffrey Katzenberg and Michael Eisner as somebody they definitely should meet with, as somebody, and as somebody who really had an understanding of how music could function dramatically, either in a musical or in the context of a film. So they talked to him about a number of projects, one of which was The Little Mermaid, an animated musical. And I think much to their surprise, Howard said, that's the one that interests me the most. He then called me, and we both started meeting with John Musker and Ron Clements and discussed The Little Mermaid. And I don't know that anybody knew what was going to come. It was just going to be an exploratory process to see what might develop with these two young off-Broadway writers writing an animated musical that's supposed to sit on the shelf alongside Cinderella and Snow White and Pinocchio and Peter Pan.
I want to be where the people are. I want to see them dancing, walking around on those, what do you call them? Oh, feet.
And it was a good marriage. It turned out to be a very good marriage. I think because of our ability to get out of our own way, and I'm a bit of a musical chameleon, and so there was a real facility in working in styles and vocabularies, and so much because of Howard Ashman being able to function as an executive producer, and Howard's incredible ability as a dramatic writer and a lyricist and director. He brought so much into that process.
And we'll talk a little bit about some of that marriage and the songwriting. But coming in on a film like this, you alluded to, you're almost given this added pressure. This is not just a film. This is a Disney animated film that, again, has to sit alongside the classics. And again, they're bringing in Ariel, the Little Mermaid, sort of that next generation of Disney princesses. And you are also the one who now has to bring the musical genre back to these animated films. Did you bring in sort of that Broadway template when you're writing and your experience in the theater, or what was your other influences, if any, in writing films?
Well, the influences really were, and it's always been our philosophy to find a unique musical vocabulary that can inform a story, and that you can tell a story, through that vocabulary. In the case of Little Mermaid, it was pretty eclectic, but I think the choice of making the character of Sebastian Caribbean so we could have calypso music was, I think, a huge element that was very consistent with the dramatic specificity that one needs to really have a successful Disney animated musical. The Broadway style, all it means is we're telling a story through songs. A song will start in one place and finish in another. You want it to be consistent with the voice of the character. It's got to be plot specific. It's got to comment on the character, and however you do that, that becomes Broadway genre. There isn't like one Broadway genre. It isn't necessarily the sound of either Jerry Herman or Stephen Sondheim or Rodgers and Hammerstein. The theater is welcoming to any style of music so long as it's specific to the story and tells the story.
Well, and do you realize at any point during Mermaid, or at any point during sort of these Renaissance films, Mermaid, you follow up with Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin and Pocahontas and Hunchback and Hercules, one after the other, at what point do you realize that what you're doing is worthy of being alongside those classics and something special? And if it's not while you're creating it, at one point did that moment finally hit you?
Well, as we're working on it, I think Howard and I had the experience of Little Shop of Horrors and the way it exploded, and that was so wonderful. That was a great moment in both of our lives and our careers. And I think, we were young and we certainly felt our oats. So I think we felt good about our work. However, it was with getting the reactions from the directors, from the producers, from Disney executives, that we began to realize that we were really onto something that was communicating to people, that was really catching people's fancy, and that continued by degrees. First, how we felt about it, then how they felt about it in-house, and then getting the audience reactions, and then getting the full public reaction. Step by step, it was a revelation, and all the way to the point where you open up the New York Times and there's this glowing review and serious review that anointed Little Mermaid, and then of course to the Oscars. It just continued step by step. It was it wasn't one point. It was just at many junctures. It kept the experience kept improving.
And I think the film's success was really unparalleled. And I think it in large part is because the music defined these films as opposed to maybe being something that was laid on top of them. And I think they all sort of share, all the songs seem to share this commonality of transporting the viewer and the listener to a very specific place and a very specific time. I think that's what makes these films very special.
Yes, and audiences sense and know this material was written specifically for this movie. It's specifically tailored to tell this story in a very, very clever and consistent way. And audiences were hungry for that, clearly, and they hadn't had that in a while. And they embraced it.
Unexpectedly, just a little change, small to say the least, both a little scared, neither one prepared, Beauty and the Beast, ever just the same.
I hear from people all the time who say, when I saw The Little Mermaid, it was just, thank you. You're going back to a vocabulary and a genre that we've been hungry for.
And the music, sets the tone. And Little Mermaid's a perfect example of the music setting the tone and the story from the opening scene, where you see the ship and you hear this sort of, rousing sort of sea chant. You understand exactly what this film is going to be. Obviously, Same thing continues with Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast, and the mix of these colors. I mean, you paint such a beautiful picture with the music.
Thank you. Well, that's the goal is in every case, in every song, to have the audience fully engaged and understanding, why this kind of song. It reminds the audiences of other things that they know and like, and informs the story, and you keep the audiences fully engaged in that score, and the score is, of course, constantly moving things forward, and that's the key to these projects, I think. So it was amazing. The reaction that we got was so encouraging, and it fueled the next 2 decades of my life.
And as I was researching for this interview, I listened over and over again to so many of these songs and scores, and I found myself feeling that range of emotions, and I could admit to you that I was getting choked up to music that I had heard hundreds of times, because, and I said, well, how do I try and encapsulate this Alan Menken style? And I couldn't, because Pocahontas had these beautiful flutes and percussions, and Hunchback had these very deep choral sounds and violins, and the range is so different, and the span of emotions was so different. I think that's why all these songs and these scores stand out on their own and made these films such a success.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that very much.
But I have to ask you, and it's not asking you maybe...
Oh, you want me to define what my style is?
Well, I'm going to ask, I can't, I certainly couldn't ask you, but I'm going to, what a favorite is, but is there one maybe that you enjoyed most or enjoy listening to most, or one that says, this is kind of what defines Alan Menken?
I wish I could. I get asked that question a lot, and I wish I could answer it definitively, but I can't.
I know, it's like saying which of your 2 children is your favorite.
Exactly.
You can't say it.
Exactly. I mean, I said often that I felt that our highest accomplishment was Hunchback of Notre Dame. That I did feel that it was the most sophisticated and emotionally deep of any of them.
The world is cruel. The world is wicked. It's I alone whom you can trust in this whole city. I am your only friend. I who keep you, teach you, feed you, dress you. I who look upon you without fear. How can I protect you, boy, unless you always stay in here, away in here?
But that doesn't mean it's, the one that reaches the audiences most effectively, or even tells the story the most effectively. They all have their own technique of doing that, and the storytelling in and Aladdin is very different from the storytelling in Pocahontas, and which is very different from the storytelling in Newsies or Enchanted. I mean, they all have their own raison d'etre, and what they share in common is that there's been a long gestation period of trying to figure out a smart way to tell the story through song that an audience can get and feel engaged in before you write anything. And certainly being completely willing to get out of my own way, and Howard getting out of his own way, and same thing with all of my collaborators, and just allowing the voice of the characters to come through, I think is huge in terms of audiences defining who it is I am or we are as writers.
And I'm so happy, just very quickly, that you mentioned Hunchback of Notre Dame, because I've always felt it is such a rich, beautiful film, and may not rise to the level of I don't want to even say success, but The Little Mermaid or The Beauty and the Beast. But I think the music in there paints such a beautiful picture, and I think Bells of Notre Dame and Topsy and God Help the Outcasts is some of your best work, and it makes that movie, like you said, as beautiful as it really is. It was
a wonderful, wonderful experience. But I followed that with Hercules, which was just this romp, and with David Zippel's just fun, clever, brilliant lyrics.
Honey, you mean Hercules? Woo-hoo, I'd like to make some sweet music.
Our story actually begins long before Hercules, many eons ago. Back when the world was new, the planet Earth was down on its luck, and everywhere gigantic brutes called Titans.
They all have their own, as I say, they all have their own spirit and their own, even Poor Little Home on the Range, which was pretty much a disaster, has its, the things about it that I love, and I hope that someday it will get a little more appreciation for some of those moments. Especially Will the Sun Ever Shine Again, the song that Bonnie Raitt recorded.
And I think, too, each song has its own, Hercules is so heroic and it's so inspiring, every song, and Aladdin's are much more mystical. And I think what's wonderful is that you write music that isn't just for the films. I think the music has a life beyond the movies. And in addition to just Disney fans enjoying it, I mean, your songs hit the top of the Billboard charts. Adults like it, which I think leads to a great deal of success. And I said earlier, it defines many children because I think children are able to relate to this music. They get the story, and more importantly, I think they get the message that you're trying to convey. Yeah,
there's no experience, honestly, even the Oscars, there's no experience that compares with me playing my songs for a young audience. Young being anywhere from little kids to even young adults. And their reactions to hearing these songs. It's just deeply, deeply moving and satisfying for me. It probably is the most satisfying recognition I ever receive. And I often get the comment, people would say, "You wrote the soundtrack for my childhood." Like, I part of me says, "Well, no, I didn't really. I mean, I wrote some of it, I guess." But it's still thrilling that they have such a feeling of ownership and investment in what we've done. It makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah, it so much carries beyond the couple of hours you may spend in the theater or a few hours sitting on the couch. People do carry it with them for years and years afterwards. Yeah. And I think, too, the film stand on their own, the music stands on their own, and obviously it's married to the film. But you've always been very much involved in the entire production of the films, meaning that the producers don't just come to you and say, "Okay, we need a love song here and a magic carpet song here." Can you tell us about the songwriting process, maybe from your perspective, as the film is being developed?
Well, we are not just songwriters; we're musical theater dramatists. So it's we get into the room with the directors and the writers, and shape the story so it can be told through song, and then we do that on a regular basis, and we collaborate. They may have ideas for songs that maybe we don't like, or maybe we think there's something in there, but we need to sort of negotiate what that song will be, what we want it to be, what they want it to be, and answer a lot of questions together before I ever go off and get into the room with my collaborator. And then once we do that, in just about every case, I really like to be in the room with my lyricist and embark on writing the song together in the room. I never, I don't like having either somebody say, here's a lyric, said it, or I say, here's a piece of music, write a lyric to it. I really want it to be a process of discovery for both of us in the moment, and that tends to be what works best.
And if I could just briefly touch on that collaborative process, clearly through the years, you've worked with some amazing lyricists, but obviously your partnership with Howard Ashman, especially early on, was some of the greatest successes that you've had. How different and maybe even difficult was it for you having to go beyond that relationship and working with others, especially because I think the two of you had that, forgive the comparisons, but that magical sort of Rodgers and Hammerstein, Sherman Brothers-esque like magic to whatever you worked on. Yeah.
Well, I think there was a number of transitions that were difficult for me. I mean, Howard was a very strong, collaborator and a very smart man. And of all my collaborations, Howard was clearly the boss. That relationship was established from our earliest show, God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater, through Little Shop, because he was also the director. And so, and on Mermaid, he was the executive producer. So Howard was the only collaboration I've been involved in where I really considered myself to be, as a composer, to be a sort of a catalyst. And he was very much in the foreground as the dramatic voice. As Howard became ill, I began to assume more and more responsibility for the songs, for producing the sessions, for the arrangements, for every aspect of what we did, because he lost his strength, literally lost his voice, and then lost his life. And so I had to step up and first of all take on more responsibility, and second of all, face the fact that I was afraid that he was the key to my success, and would I ever have success again? And of course, what happened was after he died, the first collaboration I had was with Tim Rice, and the song we wrote a number of songs for Aladdin, but among them was A Whole New World, which is the most successful song I've ever written, and he's ever written. It was a #1 single. It won Grammy Song of the Year. It won the Oscar. It was just huge. So, number one, certainly I found my own voice and my own confidence, and number two, I began to take on a much stronger leadership role. Also, in my collaboration with Howard Ashman, that's the only collaboration in which his name comes first. It's Ashman Menken. In all the other cases, my name as a composer has been coming first. So it was a real transition for me and a real growth experience in going through Howard's illness and then passing. And it was emotionally devastating and professionally kind of empowering at the same time.
Let's look forward and let's talk about Tangled and maybe a little bit about what your inspiration was for the music in this film, because it's very different from the other tale of a main character that's trapped in a tower with Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yes, it is. And one of my big concerns with this project was, oh my God, how do we deal with this? Somebody in the tower who needs to get out of the tower. And one fundamental difference is Quasimodo looked out over Paris and said, I wish I could be part of that. Whereas Rapunzel looked out of her tower and said, I really can't leave here. It's too dangerous. She's been completely brainwashed by Mother Gothel into believing that the world is too dangerous for her to go out into, and she must stay in this tower. And so the trick there was to write a number where she would sing about how great everything is in the tower, and we would fill in for her. She has to get out of this tower.
Polish and wax, do laundry and mop and shine up. Sweep again, and by then it's like 7:15, and so I'll read a book, or maybe 2 or 3. I'll add a few new paintings to my gallery. I'll play guitar and knit and cook, and basically just wonder when will my life begin.
And the musical inspiration. I looked at Rapunzel and her hair and her quest for freedom, and I thought about folk rock. I thought about, on a gut level, I went to a Joni Mitchell song called Chelsea Morning, and I went to Cat Stevens, and I thought about that musical vocabulary and wanting to write a score that kind of captured that feeling of freedom in the 60s and the innocence.
And it's interesting, and especially talking about that innocence, because, again, you're asked to write for what you know is going to be the next Disney princess, and that's a big deal. You've done it for Ariel and Belle and Jasmine, even Giselle in Enchanted. Now you have to do it for Rapunzel. And when you compose a song like When Will My Life Begin, is there any sort of added pressure or thought that comes in your mind? Because the music from this film is going to define who this princess is.
Yeah. Well, I guess a pressure. I wouldn't call it pressure, but there's definitely a debate that ensues among everybody involved with the production. Which the same thing happened with Enchanted and True Love's Kiss. Defining that genre and defining the tone is so much a matter of dealing with everybody's preconceptions about what they would like the opening to be, or everyone's judgment about whether this is the right thing. And traditionally, I don't know if it's probably true of a lot of forms, but certainly animation directors love their choices. So, what else you got? What else you got? Well, wait, can we hear something? What about something more like this? And what about something more like that? And after a while, it sort of begins to obliterate, that initial gut level confidence. And at a certain point, I said, you know what? I really want to go back to that first song I wrote because that felt most right to me. And I stuck to that pretty strongly, and that ended up being where we went. But it's I wouldn't call it pressure, but I call it definitely a strong collaborative process.
Mother knows best. Listen to your mother. It's a scary world out there. Mother knows best. One way or another, something will go wrong, I swear. Ruffians, thugs, poison ivy, quicksand, cannibals and snakes. The plague. No. Yes. Wait. Also large bugs. Men with pointy teeth. And stop no more. You'll just upset me. Mother's right here. Mother will protect
And well, to that end, when you write a song in 2010, you're writing for a different generation, a different audience with different tastes and popular musical styles. Do you approach the film with that in mind, or do you approach it as like, hey, I'm going to write the next Disney classic that's going to be timeless, and this is how I want to go about doing it?
Really, all I think is I'm going to write, the story of Rapunzel and the way we're telling the story, but that's what I'm going to do. I don't really think the next Disney classic. I don't really think, awards. I don't think a generational. Now, that said, the directors of this are considerably younger than me and considerably younger than other directors I've worked with. So naturally, there is that dynamic in the room. The more I go on, the more I'm kind of the old man in the room, which is a funny position to be in because I still think of myself as, a kid in this business. But that's a dynamic that I've accepted. I'm very much the older guy in the room and a bit of the gorilla in the room too. Not intentionally, but just because of things I've done.
Well, real quick then, you're working on this film with Mandy Moore, who, unlike maybe a Jodie Benson or a Paige O'Hara or a Lea Salonga, she's a major pop star, and she has a certain style to her singing and a large and loyal following of fans. What was working with Mandy like?
Oh, she was totally cooperative, and it was and professional, and she knew from the beginning that her job in this was to be Rapunzel, and frankly, Mandy Moore, as Mandy Moore, didn't define any of what we did any more than Alan Menken being Alan Menken defined what we did. It's our job to tell this story and get out of the way. And she was great. She was totally professional, has a wonderful instrument as a singer, and she was in every way as professional and theatrically savvy as anyone else we worked with.
But tell me, when will my life begin?
Mr. Menken, again, undoubtedly one of the greatest melody writers of our time. So much responsible for the Renaissance in animation. Excited to see Tangled. It opens November 24th in theaters everywhere. The soundtrack is available online. So grateful for all your time and working again on a personal level. Yours are the songs I keep on my iPod. I sing to myself in the car, and I'm able to enjoy and share with my kids. So on behalf of my family and all the families that you continue to touch with what's clearly not just your work, but your passion, I want to say thank you very much.
Well, thank you for your time, too.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
7 a.m. the usual morning lineup. Start on the chores and sweep till the floor's all clean. Polish and wax, do laundry and mop and shine up. Sweep again, and by then it's like 7:15. And so I'll read a book, or maybe 2 or 3. I'll add a few new paintings to my gallery. I'll play guitar and knit and cook, and basically just wonder, when will my life begin?
That's all the time we have for this week's show. Thanks so much to my very special guest, Alan Menken, for joining me this week. I'm going to put a link in the show notes to where you can purchase the soundtrack for Tangled. I actually had a chance to see an early screening of the film last week, and in addition to it being visually stunning, it's a wonderful retelling of the classic fairy tale of Rapunzel, really punctuated by the unmistakable music of Alan Menken. Tangled opens this Thanksgiving. If and when you get a chance to see it, let me know what you think, both on the forums over at wdwradio.com/forums and over up on Facebook, where it's facebook.com/wdwradio. To that end, I love when you interact with me and the show, and I want you to be a part of the WDW Radio family and community. So again, you can join the Facebook page. You can also email me directly at lou@wdwradio.com. If you want to call in your opinions or your thoughts, you can be heard on the air by calling the voicemail line toll-free at 888-703-2171. Be sure and come by the website over at wdwradio.com. Sign up for our free newsletter. You can also check out our blog post, photos, and I also post new videos pretty much every week. Come by every Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern and tune in and be a part of the WDW newscast, where I do a live interactive news show covering Walt Disney World. You can be a part of the broadcast and the discussion by joining the real-time chat room. Go to ustream.com, sign up for an account, and then go over to wdwnewscast.com. Again, every Wednesday night, 7:30 p.m. If you don't catch the show live, I'll post all the videos from those newscasts on the YouTube channel. And we're youtube.com/WDWRadio. I ask you to come by, subscribe to the channel, add me as a friend over at YouTube as well. While you're on the site, be sure and come by the WDW Radio store, where you can purchase signed copies of my Walt Disney World trivia books, as well as all 5 audio guides to Walt Disney World, available both on CD and as instantly downloadable files. There are virtual audio walking tours where I take you through the history, trivia, secrets, and overlooked experiences of Main Street, Adventureland, Fantasyland, and now Liberty Square and Toontown Fair are out. And we have a special going on where if you order all 5 right now, you'll get a discount on the CD 5-pack. In addition to the books and the CDs, don't forget also about Celebrations Magazine. It's a bi-monthly magazine celebrating the magic of Walt Disney World. Thanks to the help of so many incredible contributors, we have everything from reviews to interviews to games to Hidden Mickey vacation planning, film reviews, and so much more. For more information, to order back issues or to subscribe, head on over and visit celebrationspress.com. Now, I did mention over the past few weeks about some upcoming Disney Meets of the Month. First, I want to say thank you to everybody who joined us over in Liberty Square this past weekend. Had a great time meeting so many of you over at Sleepy Hollow Refreshments. I appreciate you taking time out of your day or out of your holiday to come by and say hello. But I did mention that I was planning something for December, and I wanted to finalize all the details before I explain to you exactly what was going on. December 12th is going to mark the airing of the 200th episode of WDW Radio. I can't believe it's been 200 episodes already, but when I saw that was coming up, I wanted to do something special, and in the spirit of always keeping things interactive, I wanted you to be a part of that. So I figured I would combine the 200th show with the Meet of the Month in Walt Disney World. So what we're going to do is we're going to record the 200th episode on Sunday, December 5th, at the Meet of the Month. But in addition to that, I also wanted to say thank you to you guys for all of your support, because without your friendship, I never would have made it to show number 2, let alone 200. So in addition to wanting you to be there while we're recording the show, I also want to make it a bit of a party atmosphere as well. So what I did is something a little bit special. I reserved space over at Ariel's at the Beach Club on Sunday, December 5th, from about 3 to 5 p.m. The doors will open probably about 3:15, and we're going to serve some snacks. We're going to provide some refreshments as well, of course, at no cost to you. And that is made possible through the help and the sponsorship and the friendship, of course, from Becky from MEI and Mouse Fan Travel. In addition to recording the show, we're also going to have a couple of special announcements, something that I'm going to be kicking off, and a little something else that I think is pretty special as well. So hopefully you can join us there and be a part of the recording of the show and the announcements. And again, just sort of my way of saying thank you to you. I'd ask that you please come by and RSVP over on the Facebook event page. I'm going to link to it in this week's show notes over at WDWRadio.com. I'll also link to it over at DisneyMeets.com, where you can get a schedule of all the upcoming Disney events. Again, I really hope you can join us on Sunday, December 5th from 3 to 5 p.m. over at Ariel's inside the Beach Club. If you can't make it this month, January's Meet of the Month, as always, will be over Marathon Weekend, sometime between January 7th and 9th, probably on the Saturday. Again, I'll have more details. That usually takes place over in the Magic Kingdom. And don't forget, February coming up, we've got the WDW Radio Cruise aboard the Disney Dream. We have availability on both outside and inside cabins. We've got a pre-stay Walt Disney World rates. We have an Illuminations dessert party on Saturday, February 26th. We've got some post-stay rates available as well. For more information, you visit www.radiocruise.com. And if you are joining us, you can pick up some logo gear. Again, you can visit www.radiocruise.com to get a link over to Cafe Press Store and come by, post in the forums. There's a lot of friendly discussion going on about everybody who's going, getting excited, and what deck everyone is on. I mentioned Becky from Mouse Fan Travel's help in putting together that meet in December. I also want to say don't forget that she is and they are my official and recommended travel provider for all of your vacation planning needs. You can visit Mouse Fan Travel for a no-obligation quote on your Walt Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Cruise Line, or Ventured by Disney Vacation, and she and her team of agents will give you the best possible service and discounts with amazing levels of personal service. If you are looking to rent a vacation home within just a couple of miles of Walt Disney World, you can visit All Star Vacation Homes. They have more than 150 homes within just a few miles of the parks. They have private pools, spas, kitchen, game rooms, multiple master bedrooms, so much more. Again, you can find them over at allstarvacationhomes.com. And as the holidays are rapidly approaching, Santa Claus is getting ready for, obviously, the busiest time of the year for him. So he's getting ready to take a little vacation at his favorite resort, which is the Walt Disney World Swan and Dolphin. He and Mrs. Claus are going to take advantage of some of those super comfortable beds. And, of course, they're going to have some special guest appearances. Lots of special events going on during the holidays over at the Walt Disney World Swan and Dolphin. There's cookie decorating, choir performances, lots more. Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus will be making appearances throughout the end of November and early December. And, of course, there's specials at the hotel as well. If you visit the homepage of WDWRadio.com, you'll find a link over to santasfavoriteresort.com where you can find out more about everything going on for the holidays over at the Walt Disney World Swan and Dolphin. And as always, there's lots more going on here over at WDW Radio. That's why I never sleep, because I'm working on some new projects and some new special events. Stay tuned. I'm going to have more announcements about that very, very soon. But again, my big thanks goes out to you for listening this and every week. Of course, my friends, if you like the show, and I hope that you do, all I ask is that you please help spread the word. Let others know about it. Tweet that you're listening. Post a link on Facebook. Come by, review the show, and the free WDW Radio iPhone app over in iTunes. And I hope the show has brought just a little bit of Disney magic to you, whether you're home or work, in the car, wherever you might be. And I hope maybe you find yourself inspired to take that first step towards pursuing your passion and following your dreams, and always, always keep moving forward. I hope you have a great, great week, everybody. So until next time, thanks again, and see ya.
Hi, WDW Radio listeners and friends. It's that time of year again. The Podcast Awards are looking for nominations for the best podcast in the area of travel, as well as the best produced podcast. We'd really, really, really love to support our friend Lou and get him these very well-deserved awards. This is Christy from New Jersey, and I'd really appreciate it if you go to podcastawards.com and nominate Lou in the Best Produced and Best Travel Podcast. He really deserves these. You all know how hard he works. Let's come together as a community and make sure that he gets the recognition he deserves. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Hi, Lou. It's Darlene Nagy from Buffalo, New York. I'm getting really excited. We're at 99 days, under 100 now, until we go down WDW to meet up with you for the WDW Radio Cruise. I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving with your family, and I will talk to you real soon. Have a magical day. Bye.
Hi, Lou. It's Tina from Ottawa. This is going to be 2 years running. I think it might start becoming a tradition. I hope I don't forget. But today is my husband and my 11th anniversary. Today's Saturday, November 13th. So I'm just calling to wish my amazing Disney geek husband, Bob, from Ottawa, a happy anniversary. And we're very excited. Last year we celebrated our anniversary by going to Disney World, and I think you might remember that. And we actually saw you in Disneyland and the tour with Dave Smith. That was just amazing. And this year, actually, kind of pre-anniversary, we went to the Epcot Food and Wine Festival, and that was amazing. The Belgian waffles were amazing. The kefta was awesome. Oh my goodness, it was such just amazing in the senses, especially the food senses. But and this year, there's a days approaching too that I know we're going to be doing another phone call soon to let you know and remind you that there's going to be only 100 days left to our cruise. So I know that our family phone call is coming, but I thought this morning when I woke up that I wanted to call and wish my husband a happy anniversary, because I did last year. And it's just something that we share so much is your podcast. We love it. We love everything you do for it. You're an inspiration itself. Just even for myself, I could speak for myself. Truly, you're a true inspiration to me. I've said before, I love your inspirational quotes. You have so much on the go, but yet you have time for your family. And that is a balance that is a very delicate balance. I'm sure that tips sometimes, but you do have those priorities. And I really, really strive to do that as well in my life as well. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for being a good mentor and just being so entertaining and somebody that we love so much. Thanks, Lou. And so enough said about that. I was calling to wish my husband a happy anniversary, but part of it is we both love you. So this is why I'm calling to wish him a happy anniversary on your podcast. Thanks so much for everything. Have a great day and enjoy Walt Disney World this weekend. I loved seeing the picture of the Tonga toast today, and I look forward to trying that soon. See ya.
Hey, Lou. It's Ron Thompson, Hitchhog 22 on the blog. what I've got here is I am standing on the middle of Main Street. It's snowing at Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. It's been a fantastic evening. I look forward to seeing you on this Saturday at the Meat and Mud. See you, Lou. Bye.
Here goes. Better throw my hand in. Wish me happy landing. All I gotta do is jump.